Hey guys, welcome back. I have a couple of projects planned for today, so I think we best jump straight in with the first item on our agenda, which is moving all of the villagers into our library. I've moved villagers a couple of times around here now, so I'm hoping it will all go smoothly, but when it comes to villagers, you can never be sure. So fingers crossed, and let's get going. And after much fun with the villagers, we now have them all in place and with various book trades that we don't currently have at home. So I think this guy has Law 3, and then Feather Falling 4, and Power 5, and we still don't have every single trade. We don't have the curses, for example, but we now have pretty much everything I actually want, which is the main thing. Also, I know they're currently looking at changing how librarians work, and I have no idea if they decide to implement those changes, if it will also change existing villagers. If it does, we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it, especially since those changes are still in experimental, so I have no idea if those changes are actually coming at all, let alone soon. But now we have all our librarians in place, our library is fully completed, and we have another area to move on to. And that is this little island just off the hub that we've discussed previously, and I think I finally know what I want to do with it. So let's finally get this place decorated. So, as I think I mentioned before, I had a couple of ideas floating around for this island, but none of them felt quite right. At one point I was considering making it just an alien landscape, but that felt a little bit random for such a prominent place. Then I thought maybe an illager outpost, like they're spying on the hub, but transporting the illagers just didn't seem worth it for a kind of boring idea. Another thought I had, which would have been an eyesore but quite funny, was to create essentially a rubbish temp or garbage dump as some fun lore. But then I decided that it would probably be quite hard to pull off and would likely look pretty bad, which isn't ideal considering how nice I think this place looks. So I finally decided upon this lone house idea, and it's inspired by those stories you hear sometimes about people who just refuse to give up their houses for development, and so they just end up building around the house. And I decided that the family who live here did the same thing when the hub was built. They refused to give up their land, and so they just live off the hub in their slightly dilapidated house. But let's take a proper look around. There wasn't a huge amount of space to work with on this island, but I think everything ended up fitting quite nicely. As you can see, I did end up going with the slightly alien-y landscape for the floor because I just think it fits. And then we have our house up here, which you can actually get up to using the vines, which is very helpful. Apart from when you fall. There we go. So the house itself is obviously quite simple, but the family all have their beds and, they have the basics. I also wasn't 100% sure on the decision to make this place a bit run down with all the cobwebs and stuff, but I think it adds a certain character, which I do really like. They also have this nice little outdoor shelter with an attempt at making a grill. And then I also decided that this place should have some actual life to it, so as you saw in the time-lapse, I actually added 3 armour stands to make up the family. So first of all we have the parent of the household who is taking a moment to fish, although I'm not sure they're going to end up catching much out here. But the armour stand for this was actually fairly simple, although I do have to say that if you're using this data pack as well, make sure you update it to the latest version so you can use the adjustment wand. It is so useful, it's kind of unreal. I mean, the book obviously still works, but the fine movements on the arms and everything were a lot easier with the adjustment wand, so I definitely recommend it. Then, just behind the parent, we have the first of the kids. I keep calling them the twins in my head, so I guess these guys are twins. But yeah, I imagine this one is running to go bother their parent about something. Maybe their brother hit them or something, not sure. But the other twin is definitely my favourite of the 3 armour stands. You can see them just poking their head around the corner. And I don't know, I just guess they're like spying to see what's going on. Maybe if they did hit their twin, they want to see if they're going to go tattle. But I just really like this little guy. He's very cute and quite dynamic. But the main thing is that this island finally has a purpose and a story, and I just love it. I've been worried about what I'm going to put here for ages, and it is so nice to finally know it's all sorted. But there's one more thing for us to look at before we're done for the day, and you guessed it, we're back to doing tower interiors. And this time I decided to go for our largest tower, this giant purple one behind me. You can't even see the top. It is absolutely massive, both because obviously it's incredibly tall, but it's also very wide, which means there's a lot of space we need to fill in every room. As usual, we enter into our lobby area with our mailbox barrels and our nice doorbell, and we also have a very nice view out over the lake, which I very much enjoy, especially because it looks out over the completed half of the island, so you really do get a very nice view. Now, there are a lot of floors for us to go through, and although I think each of them has their own touches, which I really like, with different colour schemes and decorations and focuses, some have kitchen areas while others have workstations or storage, and they've definitely each got their own vibe going on, but I'm not going to stop and talk about every floor in turn, as you've probably already guessed since I'm flicking through the floors as I'm talking. I will say I very much enjoyed having the space to play around with some carpet designs to try and fill out the space a bit, but overall, for quite a few of these rooms, they're just rooms that we don't really need to dwell on. So now let's stop and take a proper look at some of the rooms I do actually have something to say about. To start, this floor uses my lovely bunk beds, which I use far too much because I just really like them. and I think it's maybe more like a student share or a hostel or something, but I do really like it because it feels like it has a little bit of everything with kitchen area, beds, storage, even a nice bookshelf. And there is a lovely view out of both sides, although, well, not this side. It will eventually have a lovely view once we build this section. This room, however, is possibly my favourite in this tower. It's just got this grand centerpiece bed with amethysts and floating candles, and it's obviously not practical or even overly complicated, but I love this room so much. This is one of my special rooms, which I wrote down as just mini archery range. It's possibly a little strange, but I feel like maybe a few of the people in this tower loved to use the archery range out in the hub and just got annoyed when they couldn't practice when it was closed for the night, so they just converted this empty floor into a mini range they can practice on. And then finally we have our top floor, which is quite different because it has our first and probably only 360 view at the top. And it seemed appropriate as our tallest tower to have the grandest top floor, and I really quite like it. To me, it's a little restaurant where people could come up and enjoy the view and eat some tasty food. Admittedly, the view out on this side isn't overly impressive at the moment, but I may have some future plans to try and change that. But those plans are most definitely in the future. For now, I think we're done for the day. We got the librarians in, we finally dealt with this island, and we're back to tackling our tower interiors, which I think we've only got 2 left to do before they're all done, which is very exciting. Hopefully next time we'll get started on tackling our final quarter, the market, and maybe a couple of other small projects too. But until then, thank you guys for watching, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!